Shalom. First, I'll start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honor to teachers, others, and the boss of great millstone. Likewise, brothers, but not the truth. Faithful to see feeding the sheep and dear brothers and sisters tuning in. Shalom. Today's lesson's title is it Rio De Janeiro Brazil massacre type coming to the police state of Edom. And yes, that's a very long title. Hopefully, it fits into the into the page actually when I'm done. But in this lesson, okay, you're going to see footage of the aftermath, okay, of a massacre of what they call gangs over there in Rio de Janeiro, okay, and we're going to look at the possibility that this was coerced, okay, by none other than the United States of America because of the fear of an invasion. As we see right now, the United States is staging, okay, an invasion of Venezuela. Okay, we're also going to take a look at the reaction force that they're looking to establish here in Great Babylon, America, okay, using the National Guard in all 50 states. Okay, and they talk about the ICE arrest quota is well below what Trump, okay, had set out for his agents to do, okay, well below. So that could have implication on the way their strategy is moving forward. Okay, as we will also look at them falsifying death threats, okay, and perceive internal terrorism here in Great Babylon, America, mainly coming from Jakes, okay, so-called Blacks and Americans and Latinos. Okay, so before I play this first clip here, let's go into the scripture. This is the book of Ezekiel 35, starting with verse 5. It reads, "Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, said the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Said thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee." I want you to think about this because all these wars, okay, and if you're paying attention to the news headline here, what happened in Sudan, all these wars, all these massacres, all these coups where thousands die, you know, in a matter of a few hours or days, okay, has been orchestrated by Esau the Edomite, the so-called white man. Okay, he uses CIA operatives to go and top of these governments, arm certain people in these nations, okay, to turn on the government or to turn on the other party that they want to have in power for their puppet government. Okay, and so there's a lot of blood on the so-called white man's hand, and this what took place in Rio de Janeiro, okay, it has Esau written all over it. Take a look at the footage.
Oh, please, fechou.
A gente do bem e a gente não quer a guerra.
Isso aí.
A gente quer paz.
Isso aí.
É difícil ver tanto sofrimento. E a gente não pode permitir que isso se cale. São mães e famílias que estão tristes, chorando. E eu quero chorar junto com elas.
Eu acho que todo mundo tende a concordar, seja quem conhece a realidade da favela ou não, que 100 pessoas executadas, né, muitas delas com tiro na nuca, com tiro nas costas, isso jamais pode ser considerado segurança pública.
And as you saw in that footage, okay, people were crying. There's a lot of sadness. So supposedly these police, okay, or these special teams went out there and slaughtered dozens of these so-called drug dealers or bad guys, so to speak, which many of the family members are refuting that they even belong to that. Okay, and there's a detailed story that they was working on it for the last 2 months, in which they, pushed them up in some hill out of sight, out of mind, and they just basically slaughtered them. And you see they laid their bodies out in the streets, and you see thousands are gathered, picking up the bodies to go bury them. And so we can see a scenario like this is eventually going to come here, the Great Babylon, America, okay, against the children of Israel. Now, notice how they use the term, drug dealers or bad people or criminals without cases, which is the exact same terms that the king of Great Babylon, America uses, okay, towards us, okay, as his sentries. If you've seen them, ICE agents, whoever the hell they are behind the mask, going through these cities, okay, and they're indiscriminately grabbing men, women, children, and slamming them to the ground and just taking them, to wherever they're going to take them, okay, for deep questioning or torture, or never to be seen again by their family members. Okay, so we can see something like this is going to happen because this place is moving towards a police state. And as I said earlier, okay, through the spirit, I believe that this is a coercion from the United States. Okay, because the fear that Brazil has of the United States invading them because of what they're doing towards Venezuela. Okay, they're very threatening. Okay, towards Venezuela.
Very dangerous.
Some of the buildup has been intentionally noisy.
Make no mistake about it.
And posted on social media.
What you're doing right now, it's not training. This is the real world exercise.
But much of it has unfolded more discreetly, with assets moving around the theater. So here's what we know about the U.S. buildup in the region so far, and what it could mean for Venezuela.
All right, so you get the idea of the clip there. Basically, that massacre that they committed out there in Rio De Janeiro was coerced, of course, by what they're seeing, taking place with Venezuela and the United States. So they don't want any of that smoke. Okay, let's go in the book of Daniel 12 and verse 1 before we go into this reaction force that they're looking to put together here in Great Babylon, America. And it reads, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there should be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people should be delivered, every one that should be found written in the book." So this is speaking about a time that's going to be so terrifying and so horrible, a time of great persecution against the children of Israel, that the Lord Yahweh Shemashai has to dispatch angels to protect the elect, okay? And the elect is going to be the ones that's going to be delivered, okay? When we go into Jeremiah 30 and starting verse 4, we can see that this is going to impact both the northern and the southern kingdom. And it reads, "And these are the words of the Lord Yahweh Shemashai spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah." Okay, the northern kingdom, the Israelites, okay, and the southern kingdom, okay, which are the true Jews of the Bible. It says, "For thus said the Lord Yahweh Shemashai, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with the sands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness." And this is going to be because of the sheer terror, okay, that's going to be coming upon the children of Israel. And as we conclude with this lesson, moving into the other clips, you can see where they're building up, okay, first of all, a narrative, of course, identifying us as thieves, murderers, and drug dealers, and all those things like that. But you notice that this current Caesar, he's establishing reactive forces in all these cities because they expect, okay, when you consider the SNAP benefits and welfare being cut, and Jake's them, speaking about, vandalizing or stealing food just to eat, because they can't find a job because the job market is crap, and they're requiring them to go work, X amount of hours, a month. Okay, I think it's like 80 hours a month. Okay, which, how in the hell you can go work 80 hours a month if there is no jobs available? Okay, and people are crying the fact that even when they send hundreds of resumes out on Indeed, they're not getting any reaction, or respond back. Okay, so you're going to see that, this place is going to implode on itself. Okay, and this Caesar right now, Nero Trump, okay, is preparing for that fallout, and you're going to see this okay, coming out of these next two clips that I'm going to play for you. Okay, and it says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even a time of Jacob's trouble, but he should be saved out of it. And as always, we know that the elect, the 1/3 elect of Yasharal, is going to be saved. There are all these dangers, okay, that's going to be coming, okay, upon the children of Israel. Okay, so take a look at these clips.
Because he wants to create chaos.
Earlier, President Donald Trump signing an executive order that aims to create specialized units in the National Guard, trained in quelling civil disturbances and ensuring the public safety and order. It also establishes a quick reaction force, available for rapid nationwide deployment, a clear sign the president wants to use the Guard in domestic law enforcement.
Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is. Everybody standing there knows. We know. You don't have to be doing any studies. They should be saying, please come in.
We should have done this a long time ago so that every neighborhood in Chicago deserves the same safety and security that we enjoy in the suburbs.
Pentagon documents reviewed by the Washington Post lay out a proposal for a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force. 600 National Guard soldiers would be split into two bases, one in Alabama, the other in Arizona, each covering half the country. The first wave, 100 troops, would deploy within an hour. Two more waves would follow at the 2-hour and 12-hour marks, or all at once during high alert. They would rotate every 90 days, carrying weapons and riot gear. The plan uses Title 32 authority, keeping troops under their governor's command, but federally funded. Maryland Governor Wes Moore's office called the idea, quote, blatantly and dangerously ignoring long-standing procedures for requesting out-of-state Guard support. The documents warn of drawbacks like personal fatigue, less availability for disaster response, and costs that could run into the hundreds of millions of dollars. One official suggested commercial flights to reduce costs and visibility. President Donald Trump has used troops domestically before, sending 5,000 to Los Angeles earlier this year, despite California's objections, and 800 D.C. Guard troops this week to address violent crime. The Pentagon tested a similar quick reaction concept in 2020 during the months of protests after the killing of George Floyd.
You saw in that last note there, where I talk about notice how they use so-called black people, us, okay, as a way to bring about their agenda. Okay, Jakes has always been used, okay, especially the so-called Negroes, as a way to bring out their agenda. When you talk about equal rights, it was equal rights for the fags, the sodomites and women and everything else, because you're letting those Negroes, have equal rights and so forth and so forth. So again, when those times, where this place is collapsing on itself and, they need a scapegoat, and the scapegoat, okay, is us. Let's go to 2nd Ezra 15 and Psalms 14 before we look at the next set of clips here, which is going to be concerning the fact that ICE is not meeting the quota, okay, required by the Trump administration, okay, which is supposed to be 3,000 arrests, okay, per day, and they're just not meeting it, okay. And we're going to see how this is probably going to go south real soon, okay, and I'll explain that right after we go into these scriptures. This is 2nd Ezra 15, Psalms 14 reads, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition amongst men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Let's pause there for a second, okay, because that last part of it, which talks about the fact that they would not regard their prince or kings, is talking about the fact that they would not regard, authority, okay. It's just only a matter of time before these Edomites realize they're in the same boat as us, okay, the poor, okay, and they're losing everything that they have or they've worked for. The kingdom is falling, okay, and there's nowhere else to go, okay, and they're going to go up against their government. Likewise, if you look at it, when you talk about this quota, okay, now they're supposed to only be going after the criminals, okay, supposedly, okay, illegal criminals, people are doing things. But you're going to see later on in these clips, okay, and I want you to pay careful attention to it, okay, your life may depend on this, Jake, okay, it's not for amusement, okay, but if that's the way you want to look at things, and if you're looking for amusement videos, please take your motherfucking ass and go somewhere else and go watch, okay, it doesn't matter, the Lord probably hasn't chosen you to get this message anyways. Okay, this man is going to talk about the fact that they're going to expand who they're going to arrest. Eventually, this is going to lead them just coming after anyone that looks like a brown person or so-called black person. Okay, and Jake sooner or later are going to rise up. Okay, they're going to rise up. Okay, and they're not going to take this shit. Okay, these Edomites are going to do, are going to rise up against, okay, the king. Okay, but at the end of the day, they're going to blame Jakes. It says a man should desire to go in the city and should not be able, for because of their pride, the city should be troubled and houses should be destroyed and men should be afraid. Why? Because, okay, when you watch these video clips, you're going to see the fact that ICE is just shooting randomly at people. They're perceiving any movement towards them as a threat. Okay, now take a look at these. Okay, and you'll get an idea. Okay, take a look.
Let's take a look now at what federal agents are up against every day. They try to do their jobs.
Hold back, hold back. Get back!
Bubbles! Bubbles!
The hate for law enforcement and ICE agents in this country is out of control. In a moment, Border Czar Tom Homan will react to Chief Bovino's testimony and the continued violent attacks on law enforcement. Let's begin with senior correspondent Mike Tobin, who's outside that Chicago courthouse.
Now, what you saw in the last part of that clip was the opening of this them falsifying death threats, or perceived terrorism against, ICE agents or federal agents, okay? And you can see, they're trying to convince people, okay? And they show footage and clips, and there's nowhere that you saw where civilians, who they're arresting or who are standing around, maybe, hurling explicit words at them or questioning their motives, okay, lay hands on any of these agents. And there have been clips out there that's shown where they've smashed their cars into civilians' cars and then jumped out and arrested a civilian and said that they stopped preventing them from conducting their raids. Okay, and they're not fair about how they're going about things. Okay, when I go into the book of Psalms chapter 91, Psalm verse 4, okay, if they're having this type of temper tantrum and this type of how do you want to say, where they're paranoid, okay, this paranoia is going to lead into shoot first, question later, or just shoot first and move on and shoot to whatever looks in their direction. And we can see with the rapid ready force, using the National Guard, that they're going to be putting into these cities, along with them now looking to utilize the border patrol agents, okay, along with ICE and HSI, okay, and who knows, Black Ops agents and UN agents that's going to be over here. We can see where this is going to just fall into a chaos unlike anything that we've ever seen. And Jake is always going to be the target. This is Psalms chapter 91, Psalms 4 reads. Okay, because we look to Yahweh Shai for protection in these times. It says, He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth should be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be of the terror by night, nor for the arrow that fly by day. Keep in mind, a lot of time when they do these raids, and a lot of time when they're doing these shakedowns, they're coming in the nighttime. Almost every one of these raids are coming like around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. When people are in their beauty sleep, so to speak, when they're ill prepared, for the doors getting kicked down, or when they raid your house, they don't come in there and just knock on the door and go into your shit, gently. They kicking down everything. They breaking down pictures, smashing TVs, and doing all kinds of stuff, and there's no repercussion. Okay, this man is giving them the authority to do that. Okay, and it's just gonna be a matter of time before, yes, people are going to react. Okay, they're gonna mess with the wrong house, and somebody is gonna go, this is not you doing your job. This is personal, and it is personal. Esau has a personal, vendetta against Jacob, the 12 tribe of Israel. You best believe this is personal. Okay, it says, nor for the pestilence that walking in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasted at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh to thee. So the righteous, or the elect who's protected by Yahweh Shemashah is going to see a lot of our own people, Lord willing, the brothers that are teaching part of that number, died. Lots of them, your neighbors, you can see dead bodies in the streets. You're going to see, and it's not only going to be Hebrew Israelites, it's going to be the other tribes too. They're going to fall to the wayside too. But this will give you an idea why this number would be so high, because you're going to have the centurions of Great Babylon America. They're going to be killing a lot of people, and there's videos of them bringing another lesson where you have members of the National Guard are saying that they will disobey the orders coming from Trump. Okay, and they encourage in others to do that. Trump has robots. Okay, the United States of America has robots, and Elon Musk right now is building those robots. Okay, and if you remember the movie I, Robot, you can see that these robots have the ability to think, walk, run, and do all kinds of things. And one thing that they're programmed to do is kill you. Okay, this is going to be a reality. It's real. Okay, it says, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord Yahweh Shemashah, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. Okay, as a man, I can tell you, somebody coming to hurt your family, you're ready to react. Okay, you're ready to react. Okay, the Lord Yahweh Shemashah is going to have angels that's going to guide, his prophets, his chosen people, so that we don't react like the rest of these people are going to react in the world, because a lot of emotions is going to be flying. Okay, people are going to see grown men grabbing their kids and slamming them on the ground, breaking their neck, maybe even putting a bullet in them. And, what is a dad to do? He's going to go grab his sword, and, he's going to get out there and get happy. So ISIS, they're going to be a target for real. Okay, it's not happening right now, and there's no proof of it, but it is going to become a real thing. We are going to have, when I, spoke about that, in 2nd Ezra 15, and, verse 16, it talks about the fact that people are not going to regard authority, nor they're going to regard their rulers. They're not going to regard their mayor or the governors or anything like that. So It's going to be like the old Wild West. Okay, here, Great Babylon, America. Let's go into the book of Psalms 10 and start verse 7 before I play with the rest of this clip to close this lesson. Notice it says, his mouth is full of cursing, deceit, and fraud, and his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sit in the lurking place of the villages, in the secret places that he murdered the innocent. His eyes are privy set against the poor. So you see the red man sitting down there signing these executive orders and, you know, on this whispering, you know, these are bad people, these are bad people. Okay, it's not far-fetched to believe, okay, or to think or envision, okay, as the scriptures have already said, you know, pursuant to Psalm 91. And, you know, verse 7 where it says, 1,000 shall fall by thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh to thee. That we're going to see a Rio De Janeiro massacre type here in Great Babylon, America, but on a much, much grander scale. Okay, because it's every house in Great Babylon, America, okay, is going to be perceived as a threat, okay, and especially these inner cities, okay, and, you know, he's lying about who we are, okay, and labeling us as enemies of the state, okay, and as such, they're going to come at us in that respect, okay, including these regular Edomites who are frustrated and believe that their troubles and tribulation they're going through is because of us, okay, it's the reason why their government is coming heavy-handed on them. So, you know, be prepared, Jake, okay? I'm going to take a look at the rest of this video, okay, and stay prayed up. Before I go, I'd like to close and give all the way on to Yahweh, Mike.
And here is Chief Bovino is before Judge Sarah Ellis right now. So far, she has walked him through the particulars of the temporary restraining order, and they're going to move to the point where she starts asking him questions about the actions of Border Patrol agents in and around Chicago. He entered the Dirksen Federal Building about an hour and 20 minutes ago through the southeast exit of the riot fencing that surrounds the courthouse now, to the chance of lock him up with a small group of demonstrators. We actually anticipated a large group of demonstrators, but a small group heckled him as he came into the building. Now, a key piece of evidence that's going to be introduced in court here today is video of Bovino lobbing a tear gas can.
Anyway, safe drivers save money with Snapshot since they're not stuck paying for bad drivers' mistakes. Hang on, I love this part.
Canister into a crowd of demonstrators in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood. DHS says a crowd in the predominantly Hispanic neighborhood had become aggressive when Border Patrol agents were detaining people. Also that objects were thrown at agents. Bovino was hit on the head before the tear gas was deployed. Bovino told Fox News last week that he believes Border Patrol will come out on top of this thing.
You watched our agents. They operate with extreme professionalism. They do everything right. I've not seen one instance of something that was out of control or wrong. We're well used to this on the border. We're well versed in it, and I think that we're on good, solid legal footing.
A journalist group called the Chicago Headline Club brought suit looking for a restraining order that would prevent federal agents from using crowd control munitions like tear gas and pepper balls. Judge Ellis issued a ruling that federal agents need to give 2 separate warnings before deploying crowd control weapons, and attorneys for that Chicago Headline Club claim the federal agents have lied about rocks thrown at them and the extent of the threat they faced before crowd control weapons were used. And in fact, those attorneys filed some paperwork last night looking to ban all crowd control munitions until this temporary restraining order can be decided. Harris?
All right, Mike, thank you very much. And focus now, border czar Tom Homan. I first just want to get your reaction to Chief Bovino in court today and where this is going next.
Well, look, I know Chief Bovino. He's a friend of mine. I met him in Los Angeles during when it got out of control there, when peaceful protests turned into criminal activity and ICE officers were being assaulted and our federal buildings were being attacked. So he's a professional, he's a patriot, and I believe he's going to do well in court today. And I wouldn't call them crowd control measures. These are measures they have to take because they're being assaulted, because people are impeding what ICE is trying to do. It isn't about a crowd. It isn't about protesters. Protesters have the right to protest. We support that. But when they cross that line and they're throwing weapons, throwing objects at ICE, assaulting ICE officers, or impeding their movements, preventing them from leaving a building with a detainee in their possession, that's where you've got to draw the line. I've said from day one, when you cross that line, you'll be held accountable. You'll be prosecuted. So I wouldn't call them crowd control measures. I would call them criminal response measures to keep our officers safe. And not only are officers safe, the detainees they have in their custody, keeping them safe.
Yeah, we've seen instances where, you know, the guns have pointed and killed a detainee. Like,
Yes.
it's out of control. Look, I want to get to this because it speaks to some change that's happening. The Homeland Security Department released some data showing so far this year, more than 2 million illegal aliens have been deported. Nearly 600,000 captured within the United States and expelled. 1.6 million voluntarily deported, but the administration wants to pick up that pace. So there's all of that. And Tom, usually you will bring us those numbers. So let me get some reaction on this part of the story. Fox has learned of a big shakeup of immigration and customs leadership. DHS has reassigned chiefs in up to a dozen cities, including the ones you see right here on the map. They will likely be replaced with officials from Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection. Look, with all of the success that you're seeing, why these changes?
Well, first of all, the numbers are accurate. I mean, by the end of this year, by the end of December, we'll have over 600,000 removals. I looked at the numbers this morning. We're at 554,000 deportation. If you extrapolate out for 12 months, this is historic, the biggest deportation operation that we've ever seen. And so the numbers speak for themselves. Most secure border in history of the nation. And as you said, record deportation operation. And let's not forget, we have found over 23,000 children, rescued many from forced labor trafficking and sex trafficking that the last administration wasn't even looking for.
100%.
So great success. Yeah. So great success by this administration. You're exactly right. Look, personnel changes happens a lot. These are changes being. I'm not sure if they've actually been in place, and I'm not sure how many this is affecting. But Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has total authority over ICE and who serves in what positions. So, you know, I think the results speak for themselves. I think we're not going to be slowed down by any story about changes in leadership. I can tell you that Trump administration is dedicated to achieving a record deportation, vast majority being criminal aliens, making this country safer every day. But as far as personnel changes, that's under the purview of the Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm at the White House and work with people like Stephen Miller, one of the most brilliant people I've ever met, to come up with strategic policies and plans, how to get success, how to maintain success, and how to get the numbers even higher.
Look, Fox News has been monitoring a situation where some of these ICE chiefs are saying that they don't agree with how things are being carried out. And I just want to get your thought on that, because things are rolling along. So any changes at this point, it's like any other mission. It does have an effect.
Oh, absolutely does. And look, I've read a few of the stories this morning on the way to work. I want to make one thing perfectly clear. First of all, I said from day one, we are going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. And the data proves about 70% fall in that category. The other 30% are gang members, national security threats who don't have a criminal history. But 70% of everybody we're removing is a criminal, bottom line. And I said from day one, even though we prioritize public safety threats and national security threats, if you're in the country illegally, you're not off the table, especially for the 1.4 million illegal aliens who have final orders of deportation. They've had the due process at great taxpayer expense. They need to be prioritized too, because they're quick removals. When we find them and arrest them, they've already had the due process. We can move them in 24 hours. So the prioritization continues to be public safety threats, national security threats, those who had due process. But again, I'll say it again. If you're in the United States illegally, you're not off the table. You should leave on your own and give yourself an opportunity to come out of the legal program. But if we have to seek you out and find you, if we find you in a sanctuary city because we're forced into the neighborhood to find the bad guy, and we find you, you may not be a public safety threat, but you're in the country illegally, you're going to be arrested, and you're going to be deported.
Border Czar Tom Homan, always great to have you in focus. Thank you very much for all the work that you do as well.